talk about ABM and events and your event strategy. I always feel like I need to send a thank you note to whoever does the music on our pre-roll because I don't know about you, but I was here grooving while we were waiting to get started. And it just gives me a bunch of energy, which is what I need when we get into these presentations to really bring it. So I hope you're feeling the same way and you're excited about this conversation. Something else to note as that will help enhance your experience here today, just a couple housekeeping things. On the right side of your screen in Attendee Hub, there's things you can do. Join the chat. You can submit your questions through the Q&A. We're going to do a couple polls today. That's where you participate in that. There's also a survey, which we always so appreciate when you respond to an answer. It gives us a lot of information about how our content is and what we can do better in the future or keep doing. That's great. There's also links to resources there that are really great companion resources for what we're going to talk about today, as well as upcoming webinars. So you can see what other webinars we're doing and get access. And then this presentation deck that we're giving, you can find there too. So get into that tab and really interact with us today. We're excited to get going. So I'm Melissa Patterson. I'm the Vice President of Demand Gen here at Cvent. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because one-to-many demand is an important part of our strategy here at Cvent. But the changing buyer mix means that we have to shift the way we think about doing things. There's 5 generations of potential buyers in the buying committee these days. I don't know if everyone processes that all the time. And so it really means that we need more personalization and we need to really think about selling to accounts and groups of people instead of just individuals. And so when we do that, we're able to build deeper relationships, but also really important, it lets us and it requires that we work even more closely with sales. So sales and marketing teaming up to work together. So I'm so excited to have Alex Rolfe here to have this conversation with me in this chat. So welcome, Alex.
Thanks, Melissa, and thanks for everyone joining today. I'm Alex Rolfe. I'm Vice President of Sales here at Cvent. I'm really excited about this. I mean, we're going to get to talk about sales and marketing strategy. We get to talk about events, and I get to hang out with you, Melissa. So what could be better than this? But I've been at Cvent for quite a while now, about 17 years, and really fortunate in my role. One, Cvent uses events as a core part of our sales and marketing strategy. So we've got a lot of insights into, what works and what doesn't. And then I get to speak with a lot of our customers and get to see some of the amazing and innovative things that they're doing, to connect with their buyers and with their prospects. So really excited to unpack this topic a bit more. You talked about, the energy that the music brought to you, Melissa. Well, I hope everyone else here also got a little bit more energy with the coffee gift card that we sent everyone for signing up. So I've got hopefully everyone did take advantage of that. You've got a coffee in hand. One of the big things we're going to talk about today as part of ABM is personalization. And Melissa and I were joking a little bit beforehand of let's try not to say that word too much because it's such a big part of it. So keep an eye out. We probably won't be able to help ourselves. If you hear us say personalization, maybe you got to take a sip of that coffee that you have.
Yeah. Or something else, depending on what time of the day it is for you.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Thanks, Alex, again for being here. Really exciting. So I just wanted to start. I always if you've seen me on webinars before, you probably know, I like to start with a definition. I feel like it helps ground us, and especially on things that have become common terms, maybe even you're like, of course we know what ABM is, right? It's a very buzzy term in the industry and in marketing, and for all the reasons I talked about in my intro, it's important that we adopt this approach and transition from thinking so much about MQLs and engaged contacts. Those are important, but really the account view is super critical. But I'm actually, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read you the definition from Forrester. We work really closely with Forrester it used to be Serious Decisions, now it's Serious Decision within Forrester, on our own ABM strategies at Cvent. They've joined us for webinars on this topic. Those analysts have joined us on webinars on this topic before. And so I'm taking this right from them. And let me read it, and then I'll tell you why. So a strategic approach that aligns demand creation programs and messaging against a set of defined accounts and goals in a way that is relevant and valuable to those accounts and to sales. And that's really the piece that it's all important, and we're going to get into it today, but it's that and to sales that sometimes I think as marketers, we have the tendency to maybe not sort of think about the fact that we have to make what we're doing from a marketing perspective so relevant to sales, and the relationship between sales and marketing. The heart of ABM is where that happens and where it works, because sales is really so critical in understanding what's happening in the market and getting the insights from the account that then fuel what we're doing on the marketing side from personalization. So identifying the right accounts together and working together is such a critical part of success with ABM. And so I love how Forrester shapes up that definition. And then another Forrester point, they do consistently do research around all kinds of things, but on ABM in particular, top 2 reasons people do ABM: grow existing accounts, acquire net new logos. And so that is really the lens we're going to take when we talk about this conversation today, but hopefully that lines up with why you do ABM. It definitely supports what we do here at Cvent. So here comes our first poll. First poll opportunity as you're thinking about your own ABM strategy, why you do ABM, account-based marketing within your organization. We want you to let us know where you are in your journey with ABM. Are you at the beginning, just getting started? Are you in the middle? Or are you towards the end of that journey? If you'll fill out that poll, we'll get into the results in a second. I'm going to talk about the journey of ABM in general while you're thinking about your own ABM journey and how you might want to answer that. So the evolution of ABM, when ABM first started becoming a thing and we first started talking about it, was in the early 2000s. And the heart of the tactics that we were using between sales and marketing really were mostly events, a little bit of direct mail put in there, but the heart of what we were doing and the tactics we were running were events. And that's great, because we know events are an awesome way to make connections with people and build relationships and understand the full buying committee. One of the challenges was this is very manual and sort of like offline. We weren't doing a great job of maybe capturing the data that was happening within the context of those strategies. And tech was somewhat limited. There wasn't a lot of tech to support what was happening in those channels. So as we evolve, just like you all are evolving in your organizations, and we look at what's happening now, you can see events are still at the center and at the core of the strategies that we're doing in ABM, but like there's so much technology to help enable these strategies, so many omni-channel and personalization mechanisms that we use to gather insights about what people are doing, predictive insights, and then serve up the right personalized content and information to build those relationships at the account level. But then the events, and that's really the heart of what we want to talk about here, are still super critical for building those relationships. And we want to shed light today on the fact that they aren't necessarily just offline. There's a lot of technology that props up what you do in events that can be really impactful for how you can generate more first data, first-party data, and insights about what your accounts are doing, and then use that to fuel the rest of these platforms and channels and tactics that you're using. So really excited to talk about it. I'm going to pass it over to Alex in a sec here to talk, but I hope you saw where we were in the journey on the poll and where you were. Thanks for answering that question. I know the results are on the slide, so you can see where your peers are. And there they are. We showed them again. Thank you. So we can see a lot of people at the beginning. of the journey, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah, really, really interesting, and I think it's a great place to be. And look, I think it's it's an evolution, right? I think very few people would ever say they're at the end of it, and it's going to constantly change and evolve. So I think one of the big questions here, Melissa, is we think about ABM and we think about events. There's a lot of tactics in the marketing stack, as you well know. When it comes to events, they're time consuming, they're expensive. The bigger ones can be really challenging to pull off. So one of the questions is why do we do it, right? Why do it at all? And I think the reason that the effort's put in and the money is spent and the creativity is put into it is because the outcome, when done right, can be highly impactful. So there's plenty of studies done out there, that have shown that events make up a disproportionate share of an overall marketing budget. From a sales perspective, why invest in them as part of your ABM strategy? The first one is the engagement that you can get through it. One, you can get a lot of data, so you can start to learn more, about your customers, about your prospects by collecting more information about them during the registration process. When they're on site, they can start to tell you, for example, if it's a conference, what they're interested in by what they're doing. So, capturing that physical footprint, just like you would capture a digital footprint when someone's, on your website, except here, the sessions that they go to, the appointments that they make, the exhibitors and sponsors that they meet with, those are all signals that you can then hopefully take back to better build out that individual's profile. And then there's the, connection that you can make. Living in the TikTok world that we're in, short video clips, 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there, short email snippets. Now, ChatGPT and everything being generated for us. How do we build those connections? How do we, let people know, what our brand is about? How do they really start to engage with our organization? How do they learn about, the things that we offer, the new things that we come out with, and what we want them to know about us? That can't happen in every 30-second clip either. So events are a unique place where we think you can capture more attention and ultimately deliver a stronger message. That all is going to hopefully accelerate the sales process, and that's where we think there's a strong value between ABM and events. We'll talk a little bit more about finding the right people and how we go about that. But ultimately, the advantage of this is you learn more about the key folks that you're trying to target, and you accelerate that sales process because that's what events are best at. So we'll unpack a few more of those ideas as we go through it today, but those are just a couple of my quick thoughts on why events matter from a sales side.
Yeah, super valuable insights. Thanks, Alex. And, I know you talked about the different tactics that we deploy digitally to engage and interact with our targets. And then infusing events into that mix really creates a journey and then also a data story that really gives us more information than to do the next digital breadcrumb or the next a tactic set to your point, really accelerate our deal cycles and our opportunities. So this is a dense slide I have up, but we wanted to try to illustrate what we mean when we're talking about this stuff, and not just at the single contact level, right? Like the rich the rich process that it takes from a sales and marketing perspective to take someone from what I like to call eyeballs, so living out there in the land of someone who might be interested in the solution that you have to offer, all the way through to purchase. We're trying to illustrate that in this slide here and give a flavor of the types of touch points. And we're looking at two different members of the buying committee. We happen to be using CMO and event manager. Those would be two members of our buying committee here at Cvent, but you could replace those personas with whoever's in your buying committee, and you might have. We actually have 5 common buyer personas that we use, and we think about these journeys for you. You might think through how many you have and what this tactic mix looks like. But just to orient you, the white dots are those things that sales and marketing are doing to try to pull people through that aren't event related. Yellow are in-person event, and then purple are are the virtual and hybrid signals. And you can see, right, like we don't deploy all the same tactics. That's part of ABM, is understanding who in the committee that you are trying to talk to and outreach to, and knowing that they're going to be interested in different things. So a CMO might not be going to be taking a free trial, right? But that's something that we would promote very much to an event manager who's going to be the end user of the tool. So you can see the variation in the tactic mix. And the same thing is true with the event mix and how you deploy both in-person and virtual and sometimes hybrid events to help meet people where they are, and tell your story and build those connections and relationships.
So I've got a poll now. You got the first one, I get the second one. So if again, you look at the right-hand side of your engagement panel, if you click that poll button, look, there's the whole, there's the whole funnel, top to bottom, tofu to bofu down at the bottom there. Where do you believe that ABM can have the most impact from an events perspective? What part of the funnel or the buyer's journey do you find events for ABM most effective if you've run them? If not, where might your inclination be that they can have the most impact? And, Melissa, you're right. There's a lot of information on that previous slide. What I took away from that was events are so versatile and they're highly adaptable. So, one of the benefits of ABM for events is being able to craft, the right message, the right event, and the right experience for the right audience and the right persona. And that can vary greatly. I'll give you an example to maybe bring some of that previous slide to life. We were evaluating some marketing technology last year. Sales was a stakeholder. We were not going to be a primary user. Our marketing technology team was leading the evaluation process. I'd been on the peripheral. I'm a stakeholder. I knew what was going on. I got briefed and updated internally. But I was going to a trade show last year, and that company, found out that I was going. And they were hosting an event, within the trade show, right? They were doing a dinner for some of their clients and prospects, and they invited me out. And, look, I was familiar with what they did at a little bit of a high level, but after having that dinner and after, getting to know some of their team members, throughout that event, and this was a conference that I was also attending, I left with so much more insight into how their product can help our business, so that when I got back, I was a bigger champion for them. Had they not reached out and invited me and engaged me and, I attend that dinner, could have been something that I just turned to our team and said, yeah, it looks nice, but maybe not. So thinking about the right tactics to engage the right persona throughout that event life cycle, or so that buyer's life cycle, by identifying those events and opportunities is hugely, hugely important. One of the biggest trends that we've seen, in the sales side over the last several years is the increase in the number of people that have input and engagement in the buying process. So then when you start to think about, all the different types of events that you have at your disposal, be it a webinar like we're hosting today, a networking event or a dinner like I just mentioned, just seminars and roadshows that you might, go across the country or even do virtually, to expose your audience to your products or services that you offer. There's different tactics throughout the entire buyer's journey. Some of them might be more for awareness. Others might be towards the end of a deal to try and get it across the finish line. And that's where I think the fun part and the strategic part of events really comes in. Of who are we targeting and what are we trying to accomplish here. I think to get a little bit deeper into this, Melissa, we'll have to say that P word in terms of personalization, because that's what it all comes down to: creating personalized experiences for our audiences within that buying journey. And it's easier said than done. I think it takes a lot of alignment between sales and marketing. I love our partnership that we have here at Cvent. I think we communicate great and we work very well with each other. But for those folks that said they're very early in the journey, it is not just a marketing initiative. It is not just a sales-led initiative. It is a true partnership between sales and marketing to effectively implement ABM for your event program. Most folks thought top of the funnel. I think that's certainly a great place to start. You heard in my story, we were probably mid funnel with that organization, and that helped to accelerate the deal, to the bottom of the funnel. At the bottom of the funnel, just to finish that deal story, they started to engage some of our key executives a bit more, our president of sales and marketing and our CMO, and had different tactics and events that they wanted to get those folks to. So part of it is just that whole landscape of, who to engage and when, and with what type of event.
Yeah, I think it's such an important point, and honestly, like we keep talking about the relationship. It's so important. We're about to get in to the personal. I forwarded the slide to personalize because I was actually sitting here thinking we're doing pretty good. I wonder if anyone's keeping track of how many times. But now is the section where we're going to get into it. But the point I was going to make is, depending on the audience here, right? Like a lot of times those late funnel events are really sales driven or field driven, and it's important that we think about the partnership and how we enable, from a marketing perspective, sales to really do that, so that we do get the insights back that we need to help fuel the next step in the funnel. And so I'm not totally surprised to see how that poll shook out, just based on who I think probably is in the audience today. And so if you are on the marketing side, or if you're in the meeting and events group, like, make thinking about what's happening late funnel part of your alignment conversations, because I bet there's events happening that maybe you don't even know about that you could help collaborate on, right? So just like ABM, like what we're doing here, and how we work together, it's about personalized experiences, and the best way to do that and create the most impactful personalized events is really three components, and they're very similar to core components of the successful event strategy, or ABM strategy, sorry. And though they are sales and marketing alignment, content delivery and personalization, and then really creating engaging experiences wherever somebody is in the funnel. Top of funnel, things like this, like a webinar, we're trying to make our webinars as engaging as possible. Just within the context of this webinar, you've heard us plugging the chat, plugging the Q&A. We have polls, right? We want this to be a really meaningful experience and engaging experience for everybody who's taking the time out of the day to join us. So thinking through every event type, where it is in the funnel, and how you drive maximum engagement, super important, because that engagement gives you data point and interactions that help you make the next interaction more personalized. Another example I have, it's the picture that's on the screen here, is a trade show that we went to recently. We always, work really closely, sales and marketing, before trade shows around appointment setting. It's not just about what's happening in the booth. It's about making sure we have a core set of preset appointments when we go. And so we always work really closely, sales and marketing, to identify the list of targets who we either know are going to be at the event or we think might be at the event, and to build a strategy. So target list, and then we need some kind of hook. Sometimes if we're going to have a lot of customers or something, like maybe it's really easy for us to get appointment setting, but more often than not, we're trying to reach prospects at trade shows, and we might need a hook to get somebody to come in to meet with us, versus just like, do you want to come have a demo? And so we try to come up with these fun activations that also create really a lot of engagements, but as a hook to get the appointment set. And in this specific instance, we did something that I love, which is character. You could come to our booth and get a caricature of yourself created, and it gave us the opportunity to then, people were in the booth to get their caricature, but then we could, and they could preset their times. They didn't have to wait in line, or they could just stop by and sign up for a time in the future. But it gave us the opportunity to scan them, have conversations. Also, you got your caricature emailed to you, so another touch point of opt-in to get that follow-up offer. And then what was really great is, after the event, right, like the rep knows who got their caricature made, and that if it's just a single person or multiple people within the account, they can bring up on the next conversation, did you see so-and-so's caricature, or did you send that to your teammates, right? It's just a way to engage a talking point that's super personalized about something fun, but then also a way to bring in other people who might be in the buying committee and engage them in a conversation. So I'll re-say the three themes: sales and marketing alignment, content delivery and personalization, and then super engaging experiences.
I love that story, and it's super creative, and there's so many other examples out there, that we can share. And if you're interested or you want more information, we'd be happy to share other tactics and other creative strategies. And this just goes back to thinking about the right audience. One of the biggest challenges I wanted to highlight, I think it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. Events produce a ton of data, right? So when you were just talking about that trade show story, Melissa, as fun as that was, it was an opportunity to engage with those folks, to learn more about them and capture that information. So that's just one example at a booth at a trade show. But you think about all the different touch points that you have with somebody around your events, from the invites that you're sending out, the information that you're collecting during the registration experience, survey questions that you might be asking during the event, after the event. And then the question becomes, what do you do with all of it? How do we make it actionable? And one of the, I think, biggest challenges there is, do you have the right process and operational flow to be able to take all that data that you're collecting from your event and make it actionable for your sales and marketing teams? Is it being leveraged in your marketing automation system? Is it being leveraged in your CRM so that your sales team and your customer success team has not just, hey, this person attended the event, but has more detail? What did they do when they were there? What questions did they respond to? What sessions did they check out? Did they give us any other feedback, that we can then deliver to either marketing or sales, so that it can increase that personalization in our follow-ups and allow us to have, more focused, more targeted, and better conversations. It's easier said than done. We know this is one of the harder parts. It's definitely, look, we talked about the sales and marketing alignment. This is an operational alignment too. So if it's something that you're not doing today, it can be daunting. Where do I even begin? Start by having those conversations with the folks that own those key systems that you need to get data to. The other big challenge we often see is data comes from just so many different places and sources. So it's hard to find that single source of truth. So how can you think about organizing your events, your technology, so that you do have a single source of truth, to be able to have a consistent flow of data from the different types of events that you're running into those key systems? It does take a lot of collaboration with sales operations, marketing operations, whoever those groups are within your organization, but it's well worth it. And, I think it's hard to be super successful with an ABM program and events that go along with it without having those tightly tied together.
Yeah, agree. Like that, the data is there's a handshake that we do when we work together, but the data has to be shaking hands too, and has to be translated in a way that it can be used across systems. I think you talked about it being daunting. It is, and sort of a place to get started. Another place to think about getting started is it just even in your forms, when you're thinking about your registration form. If you're in the meeting and events team on the planner side, like make sure you're talking to your counterparts in demand gen and marketing operations about common fields, common field language, like pick lists, even just things like industry, right? Like unifying around the fields that you're using. So that I love everything you said, Alex, but I also think like tangibly start with forms. If you don't know where to start, that can be a good way to start to see what your different data looks like.
And look, reach across the aisle. If you're on the events team, if you're on the plan, if you're an event, or organizing the event, if you're helping to market it, go talk to a sales leader. Better yet, go talk to a sales rep, right? Ask them, what they're doing today when they follow up on some of those leads from events. What information would be helpful to them? Go ahead, have those conversations, and that can help inform your strategy going forward. One other topic I want to jump into, look, we I wouldn't say that we're this here, Melissa, but sometimes sales gets that reputation of being needy, and I'll be the first to admit that there's a lot of truth to that. We always want more. Give us more leads, give us more information, give us more events, give us more everything, right? When it comes to ABM, we need to take a step back there. It's not always about more. It's about the quality. So quality matters tremendously when it comes to ABMs and events. It really requires collaboration and working on, hey, what list? Who do we want to reach out to for this particular event? What types of accounts? Maybe you sell into multiple verticals, right? So you might want to focus something on life sciences and pharmaceutical companies, or financial services, or tech companies, or nonprofits and associations. So think about what types of accounts that you want at that event, and then what persona. So, here at Cvent, we're lucky. Events, are pretty impactful across a business organization. We get to speak with a lot of different people. We get to speak with event marketers. We get to speak with CMOs. We get to speak with CIOs and CTOs. So as we're thinking about, our events, we're thinking about, who's the right group that we want to be there. What's our messaging going to be? What's the content going to be? What's the experience going to be like, based on the personas that we're targeting? And then you do need to be very narrow and focused on it. So there's always that urge to expand it out and expand it out and expand it out. But we want to, we want to keep it focused. And look, oftentimes, especially when you go further down the funnel, these events can be even more expensive. So if you're doing, a high-end event for executives, let's say it's a fancy dinner where you're spending a couple $100, per head, maybe you're bringing in, a celebrity chef or something along those lines, you want to make sure you have the right audience in the seats. So oftentimes we even see a vetting process where, there might be approvals that need to be in place. So sales wants to nominate somebody, to participate in this particular event, and, marketing might need to approve it to make sure they fit the criteria, have that person show up. So I think there's a lot of, opportunity for targeting the right personas within our program.
Yeah, 100%. And identifying that list and targeting them. You saw all the different data points that you could use to create the profile of who you're looking for. And so then once you kind of understand that and you've agreed between sales and marketing what that is, events are a really great way to enhance the data profile and what you know about those people, to both identify the right people as they're coming inbound and registering, but also then do continued targeting across getting into more of the account set and different things like that. So think about designing your experiences when you're having an event with ABM in mind. I see a question in the Q&A about getting beyond your initial POC and finding out who other people are in the account so that you can actually do ABM. And this is a good way to do that. Like both from an inbound and outbound perspective, if you can ask your POC or say, we've got an event for XYZ executive types, or we've got an event, right? And then forward them the registration information. If you've designed your registration experience to collect that information, that starts the engagement. We can talk about this more in the Q&A section, but there's a whole bunch of things. But this is where partner with other people in your team to help generate ideas of how you can find out, research LinkedIn, find out who else is in that account, and then how you can start to engage those friends. But so thinking through registration gives us a really great opportunity to understand more about that person, so that we can continue to build more personalized experiences, and then prepare. Knowing who's going to be at the event helps us prepare to create a bespoke experience for those members of the account that are going to be at the event. So make sure. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Alex.
Sorry to jump in, Melissa, but this one I think is a big, big point on my side, and I think it goes back to also having the right tools to be able to execute this. This is where it goes back to, hey, events aren't the easiest thing in the world, right? They take a lot of work to get off the ground. Again, we oftentimes, talking with customers on our side, see disparate systems in place, and that decreases the personalization. So, I always try and compare, the B2B side versus the consumer side, and, take your, user conference, right, which would be your biggest demand gen, could be your biggest demand gen event of the year. And while it might be a big event, you could still take an ABM approach to it by segmenting it out. Like, for example, a lot of user conferences have a leadership track, which are focused on, key executive personas that they really want to engage with. But in terms of the operational side, you need to have the right the right tools in place to be able to, one, recognize the people that you're reaching out to, create the right registration path for them to go down, suggest sessions. So if it is a bigger event, maybe you have, a whole bunch of sessions happening. How do they know which ones are right for them? Making sure to deliver that, so I always liken it to the Netflix and Apple Music, Spotify. They know what you want to listen to. Netflix knows what you want to watch based on your watch history. You know a lot about your customers. You know a lot about the folks in your buying journey. Leverage that information to create a more personalized experience during the registration process, then when they're on site, and then afterwards, which we'll talk a little bit more about as well. And that's where technology starts to play a bigger role in the whole digitization of an event experience.
Yeah, love it. So we talked a little about pre-event. Let's see what happens throughout the life cycle of that journey when we're really able to design that experience for the event, and then all the potential interactions and touch points that are happening within the event that gives us a really awesome opportunity to both create a personalized experience, have people engage, but then also collect information, which then helps us further the personalized experience and the journey. This slide I love because it's at the person level, but then if you think about the multiple people across the account that could be at the event, you start to get this really awesome picture of not just a single person, but many. And Alex touched on it earlier, sort of like the footprint of digital interactions. Profiles like this and intent data like this and insights like this, if we were just thinking about leveraging traditionally digital channels and web and personalized experiences and nurture between sales and marketing, it might take us months to build a really robust picture of an intent and profile on our account targets. But an event gives us the opportunity to condense that timeline and really learn a lot about our attendees, both at the person and the buying center or account level. So here's where some of the power starts to live, and we're going to start to get into then what's so awesome after the event and what sales and marketing can do together. So again, another slightly dense slide, but once we have that data and interaction, and you saw a score kind of come together on that last slide that can be both at the person level and the account level, when we're able to integrate that into the rest of our systems, it gives us then the ability to understand what the people were doing before, and what we knew about them and what their score was from a firma, demo, behavior, account level score, but then also then combine what we see them doing at the event and give us a post-event score that really gets us to that place of prioritization and gives deep insights to both sales and marketing about what to do next and what's the next right action to really start to accelerate the buying timeline. So handing off to sales is critical. And Alex is going to get into that.
Yeah, and this, that it's an important handoff. And again, a challenge point for a lot of groups too. And this is where speed matters. So we talked earlier about, the importance of connecting systems together. When they're connected together, it allows that handoff from sales and marketing to be much, much faster. And it allows sales team to have a much greater level of depth and insight so that they have more context when they're following up with someone who attended a particular event. So you think about some of the things that, a sales team or a customer success team, might be doing throughout that event lifecycle. If your systems are integrated together, they could know immediately when someone registers for an event. So that could be a trigger for them to pick up the phone or send an email to say, hey, Melissa, saw you registered for our upcoming roadshow. That's awesome. It's going to be great. Hey, I may or may not be on site, but my team's going to be looking forward to meeting with you. And here's a couple things that you might want to be aware of. It also allows us to then say, hey, Melissa, based on, your role in marketing, there's a whole bunch of sessions that are here. I've gone ahead and I've narrowed down the 5, 6, 7, 8 sessions that I think you might be interested in. So then I have that opportunity to, help personalize that experience for Melissa based on what I know about her. It also helps us manage lead quality. right? So, there's going to be no better gatekeeper of that than your sales and marketing, your sales and success teams to say, hey, these are the right types of people that we want at this event or not. And then ultimately, they're able to get that real-time visibility into who's signed up, who's not, who participated, who didn't, without having to jump through hoops, go to someone on the marketing team to say, hey, can you get me this information? Or even worse, just not even knowing. And then it's that handoff for that post-event follow-up. So there's always that, hey, what's the next best action here? Is it going to go to marketing for continued nurture? Great, no problem. Is it going to be handed off to sales or the CS team for further follow-up afterwards? And where I think this really comes into play, just give like a real life example, right? We've all been guilty of it. It's event too. We host an event, someone attends, a couple days later, they get a, hey, saw that you came to this event, Melissa. Thanks so much for being here. If you need any more information, let me know. Versus if Melissa came to our user conference and she spent 3 days with us and she went to a whole bunch of different sessions, and I'm able to see the sessions that she went to, and she went to one on, hey, I've heard this topic that we had of generative AI in events and how it can be leveraged, and I saw that she attended that. My follow-up would be drastically different. It'd be, hey, Melissa, thanks so much for spending a couple of days with us, or even if it was just one day. I had a chance to see what you participated in, and it looked like you had some interest in generative AI. That's something we're thinking a lot about right now. We're building some of that into our product. Here are 3 or 4 or 5 use cases that you're going to be able to accomplish in our system when we roll out some generative AI functionality. Think about how different that is versus, hey, thanks for coming, right? So we want to get away from the, hey, thanks for coming follow-up into the much more personalized follow-up.
Yeah, that personalized follow-up is key. The other thing that I think is super powerful here from an ABM perspective is, just like you talked about, we've been doing that prioritization for a long time, and bubbling up the right people to send to sales. And we still do that. But the other thing we're able to reveal when we think about the account level, even if we're holding certain contacts back because maybe they're not as engaged, like salespeople can see that engagement and insight at the account level. And if they're done with their warm stuff and going into prospecting, and they see a wealth of activity in the event, even if it's not deep in the account, even if it's not deep engagement, they might have an opportunity to reach out and say, like, hey, saw we had 5 people from your account engage with our event in some way. Like, should we chat about what's going on and how we can help give you more information? Or if there's a lot of depleted engagement, or one person who's super engaged and a lot of little, like, all these are insights that can help the salesperson navigate through how they do their follow-up, in addition just to that. I don't want to minimize, it's not just topic level relevancy, but broader insights about not just what that single person is doing, but what's happening within the context of the account helps us sort of bob and weave and navigate more impactfully on the sales side. Okay, just a little bit more of a double click into the post event and how you can do personalized follow up, and how you can fuel if you have ABM tech or your marketing automation to create these personalized tracks. Like we talked about, Alex talked about TikTok at the top, but like quick videos is how everyone wants to consume. Make sure you're leveraging your event content, other videos that you have, and then topic relevancy to take people on a journey and serve up relevant information based on what they're interested in to the right people within the account. You can combine those things, and then really think about the deepening those insights and interests. It's not just video; it's other content and resources that you have from a marketing and sales perspective that are on a similar topic that you can serve up to drive even more engagement and collect more insights.
I'll just give one more quick shout out to your first bullet point there of on-demand video. So much goes into producing event content. It's usually, I think, some of the best content that's created, and too often it just kind of gets pushed to the side after the event's over. I think we're in an incredible place right now where we can continue to leverage this event content in ways that we haven't before. We'll see probably just as much, if not more, engagement, for example, from this webinar after it's done. from folks that might tune in and watch it on demand. So if you are doing in-person events, think about bringing a video crew out there and recording it, and then making that content available to those who couldn't attend. If it's virtual events, make sure that you're promoting those on demand afterwards. But how can you bring all that together too? And that's where event hubs, can be set up, where people can start to binge that content, start to learn more about your organization, and ultimately take that next best step, whether it's further engaging with your sales and marketing team or getting to the next event. Right? Think about that earlier slide that Melissa showed in the buyer's journey. There's multiple events. Like, we want people to be engaging, with us across multiple event types throughout their buying journey. So great call to action is, what next event can you come to continue learning more or engaging with the organization? And that kind of brings us to, I think, what is the ultimate goal here, and a little bit of a shift in mindset from an ABM perspective. I think a lot of times when we think about events and marketing, it's registrations and leads, right? How many people did I get signed up? How many new leads were there? That's good and that's important. Don't mistake that. But ultimately, it's about the outcome of it from an ABM perspective. Did we get the right accounts there? And did we create enough opportunities and at a big enough size? Right? So it's really looking at the quantification of it, not just from a lead standpoint, but from a pipeline standpoint. So are our events generating opportunities? That could be for new business, that could be for expansion and renewals, but is it driving the business forward? And this is why it's, again, incredibly important to have your events technology integrated with your sales and marketing technology, so that you're not doing gymnastics to try and get visibility into this, because this will help to give you that visibility into where in the funnel are our events having the most impact. With what personas are we seeing the best conversion rates? Is it helping drive the right type of accounts into our pipeline so that sales is more successful closing those deals? That's where I hope we can, we really want everyone to get to. We're not all the way there either, right? There's always work and room and improvement to be made. So it's a North Star, but ultimately, having that visibility to the best of your ability, I think, is what I would leave everyone here today with.
Yeah, really great points. And honestly, like, these insights and shared dashboards boards and this conversation around ROI and optimization and what's happening best one, like, that's the fuel for a good sales and marketing relationship. That's the cornerstone of how we work together and how we decide on joint strategy, having shared and common KPI of bookings and opportunities and how we get there, but then the insights to consume, so that we can work better together. And the handshake is living the dream, I think. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Alex. Thanks everybody for your attention so far. We're going to jump into Q&A now. I see a bunch of questions coming in. So if you haven't submitted your question, do it, and or see what's there and upvote. We're going to take a look. I kind of hit on, POCs beyond, or contacts in the account beyond your POC, with a quick example. Alex, I don't know if you have, from the sales perspective, I don't know if you have any thoughts there.
Yeah, I loved your first thought. The first one there is, leveraging the contacts that you do have to bring other people to events and into the mix, right? So creating events that aren't just for a single individual from a company, but trying to create more of that, community group of, hey, bring multiple people from the organization. Short of that, on the sales side, there's other tools out there that you can use to help acquire, find those right contacts, to include them in your outreach campaigns. So there's the ability to find those contacts, buy some data, and include them in your audience segmentation when you're deciding, hey, what types of people do we want to invite to a particular event? So you can either get it organically, or there's vendors out there that you can work with to help find that data and ultimately enhance your database.
Awesome. Okay, next question I'm going to lead off with, because I have a resounding yes, but do you see virtual and hybrid events as a good way to expand your target audience and event reach? And I say when we talk about engagement, there's a measure of dials on depth of engagement and breadth of engagement. And in-person events are awesome for really, really deep, creating deep engagement experiences. Hybrid or extending a virtual audience lets you take all that awesome content, expand it out, get your reach, expand your reach more people. And so even if the engagement isn't as deep in for the virtual audiences, it's definitely worth getting content in front of it because you'll get the breadth. So you'll get more people to engage, which gives you, in my opinion, the best of both worlds. Play the long game and the short game a little bit. Now, that being said, if Rachel Andrews, our head of events, was here, she would say yes, with the caveat that not every event should be a hybrid event. Not every event should be a virtual event. Like, understanding what you're trying to accomplish, what your goals are, then really helps you prescribe what event type and event format you need to achieve them. So not everything should be hybrid. That's not what I'm saying. But the short answer is yes. It's a great way to extend your reach.
And we see that playing out across our customer base. So, there's validation there in terms of what we see with our customers just from that sample size, where they have multiple event types in their mix. It's rare where we talk to organizations that just do one type of event and that's it. They are incorporating that, and then even over the last couple of years, seeing a transition maybe from more complex virtual events to less complex virtual events, but more engaging. Virtual certainly has found its place, and is, I think, only going to continue to be a more important part of the overall event mix than it was, obviously, even just a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Any tips on how to sell ABM to my sales team?
I mean, you're a good salesperson, Melissa. Melissa, how did you sell it? How did you sell it to us?
So I think, honestly, I think it goes back to that data conversation. That's one of the reasons I chimed in with that. Like, we spend a lot of time in concert looking at what's working and what's not, and what transactional things look like, and what leads look like, and what volume of leads look like, and being able to have the data and look at conversion rates and then show. We worked with one of our internal analytics groups to create what we called an engagement dashboard, which gave an account level view, and being able to show. Now, if you don't have that, you could probably pull it yourself out of your CRM or automation platform, or get someone to help you do that. But to really start to show, like, hey, here's the one lead we sent you, but look at all the engagement, look at all the other engagement that's happening here. Wouldn't you want to know that and see that? And wouldn't you want to think about that at the account level? And so it was just like revealing data and insights with the common goal in mind really was impactful. I also think that leveraging trends that are happening and understanding and highlighting, like, here's where we're struggling. Like, the volume game is not getting us where we need to go in these specific areas. Doing a pilot, like we first piloted higher ed. We worked together as a sales and marketing. We knew that set of business was unique enough. Then our sort of the rest of the set we were doing, and so we were like, we need specialized messaging, we need an account list, and so we like got in there and really work together without any extra tech or anything to like identify those lists. What are we going to do? Messaging, tactic set. And honestly, I think that was probably the biggest needle mover in that relationship, was we saw tremendous success in that space when we put our energy together, and really did a personalized and unified effort. The other thing I'll say that has helped us champion a broader strategy through the organization is we started bringing in a couple of intent data sources, because that's another key component of ABM, and starting to reveal that intent data to sales at the account level. And we've seen real success. We track what happens when we're able to show, like, hey, someone's looking for event management software on a review site or somewhere else, right? And the salesperson's able to sort of pounce on that and do something, and we've seen that success. So it's not just one thing, but it's a few conversations that then really helped champion the sales org, and now we're really working together on what our strategy is. Alex, I don't know what stood out to you.
Yeah, I think what will resonate the most when you're talking with your sales team is, look, the classic sales and marketing battle, right? Is marketing delivers leads, sales says that they stink, right? So it's how about what can we do to get better leads to the sales team, right? So what can we do to get better? And it's not always more, right? So I didn't say more, I said better, better and more qualified leads. So I would have conversations with your sales team of what do your best leads look like, and what if we could help you get more of your best leads? That doesn't mean more leads in general, but more of your best leads that are going to convert at a higher rate, that might sign on board at a higher average contract value. So again, I think it's that more of better leads, not just necessarily more of leads in general. And as you start to have those conversations, it starts to make more sense. Yeah, like if we do an event and only 10% of the leads are within what we would consider our ideal customer profile bucket, great. We did an event, we got a lot of people, but going back to what I kind of concluded with there, if the ROI and the pipeline attribution isn't following, then what are we doing?
Awesome. That I think all of that really resonates, and good advice. Okay, I know we're coming up against the top of the hour. We're going to take one more because it's been upvoted a little bit, and that is, how can you scale ABM? The person says, I have a small team and it's hard to market to one person, and now we have to add multiple different people at the same company. So I think I'll take a stab and then quickly, and then I'll let Alex chime in. But that quality versus quantity game. I actually know a lot of marketing leaders with small teams who have transitioned to ABM as a resource saver, because it transitions the conversation. You're thinking about it in this question. I can see it. It's like so hard to get one person. How am I going to get a whole account? But really what ABM does is let you harness that energy and not have to drive as many single volume things. It really changes the vernacular of the conversation around volume to quality, and having a shared account list, and then saying, we're not trying to, we don't need to get 5 times as many leads, because we're going to get 20% of the accounts engaged across the account. And we're going to end up with the same amount of bookings. And so it can be a resource saver, but you have to shift your mindset away from the volume game to the deep relationship and building game. I don't know if Alex has.
I know we're right at the top of the hour, so I think you said it perfect.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to plug the survey. Please take the survey. It helps us so much understand what content you like, what you don't like as much, and how your experience was today, so we can make it better next time. We know your time is super valuable. Thank you for sharing some of your day with us. We hope you got a lot out of the presentation.